So my plan was to do this in one large birth until current day, but randomly my camera stopped recording at 30 minutes, and it got me through, coming out to my parents and after first year of college. So I'm gonna probably break this into two parts because I don't really feel like re-recording it. And as you can tell, she really wants to go outside, and I do too because it is 80 degrees and sunny, and it's 2 o'clock, and I haven't done anything outside today. So enjoy what I have. Hopefully, it answers a lot of questions, and the part 2 will come out hopefully pretty soon. Hopefully this week. Thanks for watching. Whenever I first started coming out to people, I would always, try to lay out all this information, lay out all these facts, lay out my life story to, prove to people that, hey, I am who I say I am trans. But then I got to the point where I didn't really have to do that anymore. I realized that I don't need to justify it to anybody, and I don't need to prove to anybody. I mean, aside from the justifiable, medical professionals, that's completely normal, and that's a really good thing too. But the biggest thing I always wanted to say was no one would choose this. No one would choose this. It's been a really long, bumpy road. I mean, I still have a long ways to go. I'm currently 27, almost 28, and I've been dealing with this my whole life. Hold on. So yeah, I've been dealing with this my whole life, and now I've come out to probably 200 people, and so I wanted to make this video to kind of tell my story, tell where I came from, tell where I am today, what brought me here. It's not the shortest story in the world. I mean, we'll see how long it takes, but bear with me. It'll be worth it. So I grew up in East Tennessee, and both sides of my family, both sets of grandparents are Southern Baptist. And I grew up in a, somewhat religious household. We would go to church, and then that kind of slowly faded. God wasn't really something that we brought up very often. So it's a little bit of a backstory for, where I am today and why I had to delay so long to fully transition. We're still not quite there yet, but we're working on it. Small steps. So when I was, I'd say 3 or 4, I actually went into my sister's closet and tried on this, I put on this dress by myself when I was really little. And one of the big things that I think my sister and my mom kind of have a hard time with is I don't know the full details of the story. I just know that when I was really little, there was some kind of a talent competition or something or another where my mom and sister dressed me up as a girl when I was 2 or 3. They did it twice or something like that. I don't know. And apparently I won or whatever, and I've always wondered if that's one of the reasons they've been so hesitant, that they almost think that they created the problems that I have now, or I wouldn't call them problems anymore. I love who I am. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my trans identity, but at the same time I'm so much more than that. So that was very early on, when I was 2 or 3. Then when I was 3 or 4 or something like that, I did put on my sister's dress. There's a picture of me, and it's pink and white with pink polka dots or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, there's a picture of me in the photo albums and stuff of that. And then that never really had to deal with much for a little bit. And then when I was in elementary school, or maybe even early elementary school when I was 4 or 5, I remember asking my grandmother, if she had any of my sister's clothes, because to me that was what I wanted to wear. And I really really trusted my grandmother, was really comfortable with her, and so I remember doing that. And she looked for a while. I don't think she ever found anything, and I don't think anything ever came of it. But then like later on in elementary school, I would dress up in my sister's clothes, and she's 5.5 years older than me. So I remember in 5th grade was like kind of like the big, like, I wouldn't say come to Jesus meeting, but it was like, what's going on here? So my sister had, like, she was in HOSA. She's currently an ER doctor, but she was in like all these medical, like, clubs, I guess you could say, in high school. And so for one of the competitions, she had to dress up in like blazer, and she had a skirt with it. Like, it was, she was dressing up professionally. And I remember that the skirt was in the bag because it was like too small or too big or something or another. And so my dad was going to take it back. And I had gotten it out of there and had like put it on, and for whatever reason, I mean, it's like knee length or something like that. Like, it's pretty long. And I remember, I don't know why, but I remember I'd like try to like jump in it or do a toe touch or something like that. I don't know. And I remember like it ripped a little bit, and then I was like freaking out. Like, this was something I like hid from my family, like in general, like it wasn't accepted. And so I put it back in the bag. My dad ended up taking it back to, he ended up taking it back to the store, and it had the rip in it. And so he brought it back, and then I think I'd gotten it out again, and I was in 5th grade. And I remember I had like snuck into her room several times, and I had like basically a stash of her clothes behind my bed. And because my bed was pushed up against the wall, and so that was like my hiding place, was to put it behind my bed. And I think I put it back there, and then my dad was wanting to know where it was again, and so my sister was looking like crazy. I remember her boyfriend at the time was there too. Like, they were all looking, they were like not sure where it was. So I went to my mom, and I took it because I felt bad, because like my dad's like, where is it? And my sister's like, I don't know. And so I took it to my mom, and she was just like, okay. And then this might have actually been 3rd grade. I don't know. I can't keep track of it anymore. And so then like they're like, my mom was like, okay, what else do you have? And so I got a bunch of the stuff out and gave it back, and my parents were like confused. But they didn't take me to counseling. They didn't do anything. They were just like, I don't know what to do, so we're gonna pretend this didn't happen, essentially. From what I remember, I mean, almost 28 now, so that was like 20 years ago. So 5th grade, I also remember, this was 100% 5th grade. I had done the same thing, had like got a bunch of my sister's clothes, again, behind the bed. I had a bunk bed, and I remember like, I had like a tank top camisole or something from her, and I also had a skirt from her. And I remember I was just like laying on the bed, like watching TV, like just doing my normal stuff. And I remember even my parents like opened the door, or it might have even been open. I don't know. And they, never noticed, I guess. Maybe it was just because it was dark under my bunk bed. I don't know. And so then later on, like a little bit later, I started wearing some of her clothes underneath my clothes. And then it was winter at this point, and I had like jeans and a long sleeve shirt on. Well, I've always had a problem since I was younger, like I overheat and I get really red. And it used to happen really bad when I play soccer and things like that. And so I was like looking red, and they were like, my parents were like, is there a rash? Like, what's going on? Like, and so I remember we were at the kitchen table, and my mom or my dad, one of them like lifted up my shirt to like look, I guess, at a rash underneath it. Well, it was like a bluish greenish, purplish. I don't fully remember, but it was like a ribbed tank top that I had underneath it. And so it was like another layer that was a little on the thicker side. It wasn't something like I have on now. And so I remember like they were like freaking out. I remember I jerked my shirt off because they were freaking, like they were like super confused. I jerked my long sleeve shirt off. I jerked that shirt off. I threw it on the ground and ran to my room and shut the door. And so I think they talked or whatever. And then a little bit later, they had me come out in the hall and were like talking to me. And, you know, they were side by side. So like they filled up the whole hallway. They were like really concerned, really confused. And it was like I was freaking out. I was absolutely freaking out. I remember my mom asking me, and she was like, Weston, do you want to be a girl? Is that it? And she was like, because if so, we'll find a way. Like, is that it? And I will remember this moment for the rest of my life. And I remember like knowing, not wanting to like cause any waves or rifts or anything like that, or cause drama. I remember saying no, because that was what was expected. And I remember I said no, I drew it out, and I looked to the right. I looked at the ground, because I didn't want to look at them. And I didn't want to say no either. I knew then. I was like, when she asked me that, I was like, yes, I do. But I knew I had to say no. And so she was just like, okay then, like, this basically has to stop. So, kind of another one of those things, I'd almost call it like don't ask, don't tell, or something like that. It was like, we're gonna sweep this under the rug, pretend it didn't happen. And so she, like later on, this was, I was in 5th grade. So in 7th grade, I think I started doing something similar again. And I remember we were at the beach with some family friends. It was me, my mom, my sister, and it was like my mom's best friend and her daughter. And this was like spring break or fall break, I'm not sure which, but regardless, both fathers, like, they couldn't be there, like, and so I ended up going, I guess everyone was at the beach or something, and me and my sister, I can't remember what it was. I think either me, my sister, and the daughter and the family friend, or just my sister and the family friend. I don't remember. Anyway, I'd gone in there and got one of my sister's skirts out and put it on. Well, my sister walked into the middle of me either putting it on or taking it off. And she was like freaking out, was like disgusted. She ended up telling my mom, and my mom was like freaking out. She was like, what if she, meaning the other girl that was with us, she was like, what if she would have walked in? What then, Weston? What then? And so my mom was like upset. She called my dad, and my dad was like, she was like, because I was like, please don't tell dad, please don't tell dad. And she was like, she called my dad, and she was upset, and she was like, he's doing it again, and told him what happened, and she was just like, she was mad. She was like, do you need counseling? Is that it? Which my family, for whatever reason, mental health is like the last thing. It's like something that we have to like bottle up and pretend that we're like perfect and everything is like hunky-dory. Because for my mom, appearances matter. And so, she was like, do you need counseling? Is that it? She was so mad. She was like a disgusting threat. Really? Yeah, I did. Like, I can't, go back in time, but yeah, I wish my parents would have done something, but they didn't know what to do. They're, in their mind, it just wasn't right. The thing that, my mom always says is God made you. And I was like, well, yeah, he did. So this is me. So, the whole counseling thing, that was like never going to be an option. And then, like, this was 7th grade. And then, let's see. But then, like, my sister in, like, 7th grade, that's when she went off to college. Or, no, that was her senior year of high school. And so the year after, she went off to college. So there's, like, no more women's clothes in the house that would fit me. My mom's a little on the bigger side, but not by much. And so, like, my sister was gone, so that, like, took away all the access to that type stuff. So, then, 8th grade rolls around, I'm like, okay, I need to just, like, I just need to be a dude. Like, I don't think I understood what it was. Like, I was just, because my family is so, it's weird. We're like, they're both liberal and super conservative at the same time. But I guess when it comes to religious things, that's just how they are. So, like, I was like, okay, like, I need to, like, try to, like, get this out. Like, I basically would, like, purge everything and would, like, try to not think about it. But in reality, it's, like, all you think about when you're a kid. And then 8th grade rolls around and bam, puberty. It's like, what? Like, this is weird. Like, what's going on? This is not what's supposed to be happening. And so I got, like, super, super uncomfortable with my body, like, super sad. 8th grade was the first time I ever knew what, like, I ever encountered something about trans. Like, it was never something that I'd ever been exposed to. And I was like, like, this could be me. And so, like, I read a lot of stuff, and it was like, I was like, okay, like, I didn't understand it. I just was like, hey, like, maybe this is me. And again, tried to, like, push everything out. And, my mom, like, she would always, for whatever reason, she'd always be like, who'd you flirt with today? Who you're interested with? Like, she was always wanting me to be interested in somebody, like, pursuing a relationship. And it was, like, the most unhealthy thing ever, because, like, I was like, okay, I just need a relationship. And so, like, I was constantly, like, basically girl crazy, because I was, like, essentially trying to fix myself. But then if I started talking to someone or something like that, then I'd be like, wait, they're getting too close. I can't let them anymore. And so I was always, like, kind of sort of, I guess I was standoffish. I don't know. This is all from my perspective, of course. And so, I had to push everything away. I had to just try to be, a dude. And my grandfather was an iron worker. My uncle was a firefighter and then fire chief. Like, they have a farm. I grew up working on the farm all the time. My mom, my sister, and my grandmother on Sundays after church would cook this big Sunday lunch, which, if anybody ever came over, they'd be like, this is like Thanksgiving or Christmas. And we were like, no, you should see Thanksgiving. And it's like a lot of that stuff was either grown on my farm or, like, it was, we'd get it from somewhere else. But they would always cook. It was understood that the guys were not, like, going to be in the kitchen. And then after they got done, we'd go leave. And we'd go out and do something else, or, sit around. Like, it was like, really odd, now that I think about it. Like, I love how we had the family thing of, like, every Sunday we'd have this big, like, lunch where, my mom, my dad, my uncle, his girlfriend, if he was dating someone at the time, and my grandparents and stuff. Like, we just sit around my grandmother's table, and everything, of course, was made from scratch. And basically, like, the guys were expected to do, like, the work and stuff like that. Like, I remember my sister asked me one time, not asked me, she had asked at one point years and years ago, like, she told me later, but she wanted to drive a stick shift, because, like, a lot of the things on the farm were, like, stick shift. And I guess my mom or someone was like, no good Southern lady should be able to drive a stick shift. Like, what? Like, they wouldn't teach her because she was a woman? Like, that's so stupid. And she wasn't like taught to do any kind of the farm work or anything like that. Like, heck, I was driving a tractor when I was like 10. And so, I grew up with very traditional gender roles. So like when 8th, 9th grade rolls around and I'm like, wait a minute, something's weird. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to be accepted. Like, I can't really express how I feel. So I'm just going to try to like do my best. And so like, I almost like overdid it because like, I was like, okay, guys don't show emotion. Like I remember one of my friends in high school, my nickname was like Stone Face because like, I like never showed emotion because I was like, guys aren't supposed to show emotion. And then I also remember like every time we'd like walk up in a group or like we'd be in a group of guys like just talking and like, always made sure my legs were pretty far apart, just the normal guy things, I guess. I always had to take like the biggest hits. I always had to be the toughest. It's called compensating for a reason. Like, cause I didn't want them to know. And, I learned that from an early age. Like, I remember in 7th grade, a friend of a friend, like, asked my friend Jacob, was like, is he gay? Meaning to me. And I'll never forget the way he said it and the way he looked at me. Cause it was like, he was like disgusted and was like, so yeah, I learned pretty early on to like hide stuff. And so, high school progresses, gonna go back real quick to like 8th grade. So I remember like, in like 8th or 9th grade, like that's, I didn't have access to my sister's clothes anymore. She was in college. So I remember I took a pair of my basketball shorts and I put both of my legs in, one of the leg holes and basically made a little skirt. And I remember like really, really hating the fact that there was a bulge in the skirt because any girl that I've ever seen, like they didn't have that. So I like hated it, absolutely hated it. And I remember just pushing it and trying to push it away. Like I didn't want it. Like I hated it. It wasn't supposed to be there in my mind. And this was 8th grade. This was before I even knew what trans was. So fast forward a little bit, high school continues, it is what it is. I date a couple girls, not my thing, doesn't work out. Cause I was still, you can't really date someone until you know who you are. Like, or I mean, you can, but like, I wasn't there. So then college comes around and it's like the first time I've been, away from my family, like in any length of time. And I remember after my first semester of college, it was like the worst timing ever. It was the night before my chemistry final. I had like a holy shit moment because like I had bought, some women's clothes when I was in college, like freshman year. I remember like, like me and my roommate actually fought a lot because we were like kind of friends in high school, but we didn't really hang out that much. And then like when we started hanging out a lot, we were like, we just didn't get along. He's super conservative, was like really ridiculous. But regardless, like I remember like he'd go to the gym and he had like a routine and so like he'd be gone for so long. So like sometimes I'd ask him how long he'd be gone and things like that, which as a roommate, that's probably weird to hear someone ask you, but in reality, like I was literally dressing up in women's clothes in the dorm and didn't want him to walk in on me. And he would not, would probably not be okay with it at all. And so like, heck, who knows what he thought? I really don't know. But yeah, I would just like sit there, do my homework in women's clothes. Like it wasn't a big deal. And I remember one time he walked in with me and I was like, I had a skirt on, but I had like, was able to either grab a blanket to put over it or something like that. And I remember I like sat there for forever until he like went to the bathroom or something. And I was just like dying because I was like stuck. And I was like trying to do my homework, but also like really super freaking out because I'm like, what if he discovers, and such. And so then, like, I did more research. I was on my own. I was able to, like, do my own thing. And then, right before my chemistry one final in December, that was the aha, like, yes, I am trans. And worst timing, got like 2 hours of sleep that night. Did okay in chemistry, like passed, got like a B plus or something like that. But I mean, kind of a big realization right before a final, like worst timing ever. Went down to visit my sister in South Carolina. She went to University of South Carolina, and she was in med school at the time. And went down to spend some time with her. I told her, I came out to her. That was the first time I come out to a family member. A couple weeks before, I came out to my friend. I'm gonna call it M, and she's the first person I ever came out to. And we're still friends again today. We don't talk near as much as we used to. But she was the first person I came out to, and then I came out to my sister, and my sister was like, Weston, like, why didn't you tell me? Like, I always thought you were gay or something, but why didn't you tell me? We talked a lot. It was funny. She had to get a dress for a wedding or something. So, like, we literally went shopping, and she was, like, amazed because, like, before I'd always, like, acted disinterested in shopping. But I remember, like, walking around stores with my mom, and, hold on. Well, the light's dead. Anyway, I remember, walking around stores with like my mom and my sister, and like I knew I wasn't supposed to like the clothing and stuff, but I remember like I'd like brush my hand against stuff and things like that, and just like act like I really hated it, and just like, because that's what I felt like I was supposed to do. And then I ended up going shopping with my sister. My sister's like shocked because she's like, huh. And so yeah, she was like, why didn't you tell me? And then we got to talking about my parents, and I was afraid that they were going to disown me. And my sister was like, I'm not quite sure. Like, I really don't know, is what she said. And so she advised me to go to counseling. That was the first time I ever went to counseling. Started counseling spring semester of freshman year. And went through that. It was pretty much, normal counseling at the university as that. It was the University of Tennessee. And so then, like that summer, I ended up coming out to my parents. Like I wrote them a letter. I said I was trans. I was like really wanting to transition. I honestly put way too much information in there, because I've learned that a little bit goes a long way, because like people have to take time to adjust. Like I used to, I remember the first couple of people I like came out to, I just like vomited because I never told anybody about this, and it was like probably super overwhelming. And but you live and you learn. So told my parents probably a little bit too much. They read the letter. My dad was standing up. I remember he just kind of like sunk and then like leaned into to the wall that he was standing next to. My mom just like staring at the paper, and my dad starts crying. My mom just like, I don't think she ever finished it. I think she just was like dumbfounded, like in shock essentially. And so then, my dad like hugs me, and then like I walk away. And like I was bursting out crying, and I was like, I really thought you guys were gonna disown me. Like I was terrified to like tell you. My dad like then really busts out crying, and he's like, how could you ever think that? And he comes over and hugs me, and he's like, you're still our kid. Like, how could you ever think that? And so I remember him turning to my mom and said, my mom, and was like, Cindy, like, get over here and hug him. Like, he's still your kid. Get over here and hug him. And of course, she was in shock, sitting on the couch. She did not come over and hug me. My dad was then became like a don't ask, don't tell thing again, where we didn't bring it up. But then my mom still like came out to her one day, and then for the next 3 days, she like basically stayed in her room crying, and then for like the next 2 weeks, every time she saw me, she just had this such hatred, loathing look, and just of disgust. And that was a very hard 2 weeks. Like it was rough seeing like someone that you thought would always be there, like they look like they absolutely hate your guts and can't stand to see you. So I basically hid in my room for a couple weeks when I was home.